Clark Lea and the Vanderbilt Commodores are cooking up something special on offense. Are they trying their very own Travis Hunter experiment? We'll see what that looks like. Stick around. Get locked on.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Today, on today's episode, we're going to talk about what exactly the Vanderbilt Commodores are cooking up on offense. There's some things happening. There's a Travis Hunter experiment happening right here in Nashville. What does that mean for the Commodores? He's trying it with Martel Hight. Is it a good idea? I think it could explode Vandy's offense. I think this thing could be a huge deal. And speaking of the offense, it needs some weapons to emerge. Height could be something, obviously, but there's an unlikely player that is showing out and has been a pain in the you-know-what to guard. What does this mean? What does this look like now? How is this offense constructed? Lastly, we're going to wrap by talking about the culture at practice and whether or not the adjective chippiness is a good or bad thing. That's how practices have been described there. So thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. You need one now? Well, grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. Stock up today and stay energized. So this is interesting because, this is I think we're in a rare situation here. And thanks to Travis Hunter for, being so, dynamic and being so good. Martel Hight, I think, he was a dynamic weapon in high school, and he's been in the punt return game for Vanderbilt. He's obviously been a really good cornerback. But Martel Hight is trying to do his best Travis Hunter impression. And I think Clark Lea is really digging it. And guess what? I think it's working. So what does that mean? Okay, so Martel Hight, according to practice reports that I've read, is taking offensive snaps. Now, he's a starting cornerback. He's also a starting kick and punt returner. Maybe not punt return. I think it's just kick. He might add punt return as well. He might be somebody that never really comes off the field. But he's going to, this is kind of their very own. And what is the, for those of you that are unfamiliar with what the Travis Hunter experiment is in case you don't know, Travis Hunter played both sides of the football at Colorado and at Jackson State, really, for Deion Sanders. Was a standout wide receiver, was a standout corner, and is probably going to go very high in the NFL draft. I don't really need to say much more about Travis Hunter. But what this means for Vanderbilt is this, okay? They're looking for weapons to emerge, okay? They're looking for this offense to be explosive. They want to get some playmakers because, the run game's going to go. Diego Pavia is going to do his thing. Like, there's going to be things that happen within those two realms on this offense. But as we know, that can't be your primary source of getting yards and scoring points. You have to be now in year two, you have to be a little bit more dynamic because people are expecting Diego Pavia to do his thing in the run game. Not sure if they're going to actually be able to stop him, but that's going to, they're going to have something off of that. They're also going to have something other than Cedric Alexander playing at the running back position. And this is another option here. Martel Hight, they kicked around the idea. He's done both in high school. He's returning kicks and punts. And so we know he is very dynamic with the ball in his hand. So why not give him a shot at wide receiver? Now, this is interesting in the fact that I think it could really work. A lot of times you're like, nah, is he going to learn enough to really have enough of a package to really do anything outside of a gadget play here and there? And I think it's going to go beyond that. I'm predicting that it's going to go beyond that. He's going to be a great jet sweep guy, I think. He's going to be somebody that I think can run most routes, and he can be dynamic in the passing game. And he's somebody that I feel like is intelligent enough and savvy enough because, he does a lot of different things and he's kind of led that secondary. I think he's savvy enough to where you can give him a package of plays and it's not like the whole offense. I'm not sure they're going to open up the whole offense for him, but I think he's going to get a package of plays more than just like a run and a pass. I think he's going to have his own family of route concepts that they want to feature him and give him the ball. And I don't think he's going to play as much as Travis Hunter did. I don't think he's going to get above 100 something snaps that Travis Hunter did. I think Travis Hunter had 100, like he would average 115 snaps a game. I'm not sure that Martel Hight is going to be in that snap count range because he's in special teams, because he's going to be such an integral part of the defense. But I do think, you're going to see some series that features Martel Hight on offense, and you're going to see probably, I wouldn't be surprised to see him 80, 85 plays per game. Like he's going to get some, I think he's going to get significant time on offense. Not significant enough to be a factor in the starting lineup or like to be kind of that Travis Hunter deal, but I think he's going to be productive, and I think Vanderbilt's going to be able to put up some points because he's there. But I'm very excited about this because this is kind of the spark that they need. This is kind of the guy that, if they're going to want to do some different personnel packages, if they're going to want to move some things around, if they're going to want to motion him into the backfield and throw it out there to him on a screen or involve him in the run game or whatever. Maybe they have some gadget plays for him where he takes the snap at quarterback and, they have something with Diego Pavia in there, or maybe he runs an option. There's a lot of creative things they can do with him. But getting him on the move, getting him running laterally, getting him into space is going to be something that's going to be very important for Vanderbilt to do because he is a dynamic athlete. And so when you have that, you have to capitalize on it. And you have to stretch I think he's also not somebody that's, that you're going to be able to sit up on because, some of these gadget guys, they come in, they run a jet sweep and they go out. Like they see, okay, Martel Hight's coming in, we're going to gear up towards jet sweep. I don't think they're going to be able to get a beat on him in that regard. I think Vanderbilt's going to be able to teach and be able to rep Martel Hight enough with some of their base offense stuff that he's just going to come in and run the offense. Like they may bring him in and just run the ball occasionally, like just to show that this guy's not a decoy. This guy's not a gadget player. He could actually be a viable offensive player. So they're not gonna feel forced to have to get the ball to him every time he's in. I think he's going to play frequently enough to where they don't have to do that. Now they're going to probably want to because he's a dynamic athlete, but it's not going to be one of those things where it's mandatory. It's not going to be one of those things where you feel like you're losing out and you feel like your offense can't go if you don't get Martel Hight in the game. But he's going to be a problem in matchups, right? You're going to get him in the slot and he's going to run, and he's going to be matched up on a safety or a slot corner. He's somebody that can play outside. And really kind of cause some havoc out there. He's somebody that can block and in space for Junior Sherrill or for anybody else that wants to get involved in the offense. And then, of course, he's a dynamic weapon. And then you throw him back there and punt and kick return, like you've got yourself a full service player. So this is going to be kind of exciting because I'm very curious to see, and this could very well be a smokescreen. I have no idea. And I'm fully aware that if he never plays any offense whatsoever, this episode is going to be silly. But this guy's a dynamic weapon. You can't kick it to him. You can't punt it to him. He's dangerous. Now you're going to have to worry about him playing offense, which you didn't have to worry about that last year because he didn't play offense. So what does that mean for the other receivers, though? Also, what does that mean for Joseph McVay, who's been injured? And I saw a before and after picture of Joseph McVay when he came in as a freshman versus now. Holy cow. That dude is jacked. But he's been injured and he's been beat up. And I don't think it's over. I've read it's not overly serious. They're just, because it's spring, they're taking precautions. But, where's this other, where's Tristan Brown? Where's all these receivers? Is the number one receiver not on campus yet? Trent Hudson or LeBron Hill or one of the freshmen coming in. Like where's wide receiver one? where is your guy, your main guy that you're going to, hey, without a shadow of a doubt, he's out on the outside and we're going to feature him. We're going to attack with him. Where's that guy coming from? Right. This is going to be, part of the reason why they're doing the Martel Hight experiment is because they need a dynamic playmaker at that position. They don't feel like they're getting it, which it still may be a little premature to evaluate that and to call this wide receiver room a bust. And they still may go in the portal and get a guy. I still don't think they're going to play him full time enough to where you're overly worried about what he's contributing or not contributing offensively. I'm talking about Martel Hight, but these receivers are going to have to step up. Somebody's going to have to, I think this coaching staff is going to have to figure out and be able to live with somebody's going to baptize by fire. Somebody's just going to get in there and take their lumps. They just have to get behind that. And they have to get on board with doing that because that's just the way it's got to go, right? That's just the way it's got to go. So, but they're looking for weapons. They want weapons. They're looking for the best personnel groupings. They're looking for the best combination of things. I'll tell you what personnel group is probably not going to happen at Vanderbilt for a lot of reasons. That's 10 personnel. You're probably not going to get a lot of 10 personnel packages at Vanderbilt because I don't think there's 4 guys that can be in 10 personnel, A. B, that's not their philosophy. They're not a 10 personnel team. And C, refer back to A and B. So what does that mean? Does it mean more 12, 11, 13? Is there new targets emerging? Somebody's got to emerge. I think there's somebody in the wings that's emerging from an unlikely place. Who could that be? We'll talk about it next. All right, talking Nissan. We're all about starts. And because numbers don't lie when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada PRO-4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. So whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada PRO-4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. So take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. All right, talking about FanDuel. March Madness is here. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. And here's the thing, picking my favorites. I got my eye on a few underdogs this year. I'm picking SEC teams apparently, given the way this tournament's working. But FanDuel makes it even easier to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. And with tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something to be exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, and there's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the action on the college hoops action all tournament long. You don't want to miss it. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you need a second listen, Locked On SEC is your place to go, or Locked On Ole Miss. That's going to be quite the adventure, and this is going to be a lot of fun. This tournament with the 7 SEC teams that are competing, it's going to be a lot of fun. And as I record this, Alabama, I think, just hit another 3. Good Lord, they scored over 110 points. Right? So, but we here at Locked On Vandy, we're going to stick to football right now. Vandy just lost. Vandy's basketball season is over. Transfer portal is not quite open yet, but it will be soon. And people are entering it. And then Vandy's going to go get some people from it. And they're going to build back the roster, and it's going to be just fine because Mark Byington said he can coach. We know he can coach. There's NIL participation, all that good stuff. So I'm not worried about basketball at this moment. But here's what I am worried about. I'm worried about Vanderbilt's offense on the football field being able to have some playmakers that emerge. And we've talked about it. I've even made the bold prediction that I think the wide receiver group is going to be explosive. I still believe that because, A, it's still early, but then again, these corners are working these guys. Martel Hight's going to be a part of the group, so that can only add to it. But this group is being forged by iron, so they're only going to be more explosive. But there's something else emerging in the wings, I think, and I'm reading about it. I'm very excited about it, and it could lead to a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. But tight end Bryson Coleman is becoming unguardable. That's what's happening. That's the feedback that they're getting. He is becoming unguardable. Brandon Fontenette can't do it. He's got such a long frame. His catch radius is insane. It's pretty much just throw in his general vicinity. He's going to come down with it. And such a big body, like you can't get around him. You can't out climb him. You just, especially some of these cornerbacks that are 5'11", 6 foot, and he's 6'6", and can jump. So what does that mean for this offense? Because if Bryson Coleman is unguardable, he's a tight end. There's another tight end on the roster that seems to be unguardable. His name is Eli Stowers. And there's a third tight end that's also a behemoth. He can make some catches too, but he's more of a run blocker. He's more of a true inline tight end, but still, he can be a factor in the pass game as well. Does Vanderbilt, dare I say, go 13 personnel? Could be something. And Eli Stowers is somebody that could be an 11 personnel inside receiver. And they may get into some 11 personnel type looks with the 13 personnel because you got Stowers, Coleman, who's starting to come into his own in the blocking realm. He's learning still. He's adding weight and all that stuff. But 12 personnel, I think is going to be something that Vandy would want to live in with the run game, the way it's going to be, the way that your weapons are starting to emerge. I mean, two of your top three weapons could quite possibly – actually, your top three weapons could be two tight ends and a cornerback. Like, think about that let that sink in for a second. Your top three weapons on offense in the passing game could be two tight ends and a corner. No wide receivers whatsoever. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's going to actually be the case, but it's pretty crazy and pretty wild to think about just how crazy that sounds. But, what's good with, when you get down in the red zone, especially when you have three big targets, which I think Eli Stowers is 6'3" or 6'4" himself, so he's not a small guy either. But you have that, Cole Spence and Bryson Coleman, all 6'4" and above, with Coleman being 6'6", Cole Spence being 6'7". Those guys are monsters. And if they can develop a really good 13 personnel package, they could throw those guys in on the goal line. And A, you have a really good running surface. B, you have a really good running surface with the ability to move two of those guys around. You can shift, you can motion, you can shift, then motion. And you have a lot of options there, not only in the run game, but also in the passing game coming off of that. So, this is something that they can do. And then, of course, they would have to incorporate one other receiver, which would probably be Trent Hudson at this point, or Chance Fitzgerald. Maybe even – I don't know that Junior Sherrill's tall enough. I just don't know who's emerging as a wide receiver. That's the thing. Like, that's the thing that's confusing. That's the thing that's, I don't want to say concerning yet. I think it's still too early to say concerning. But you just see some – like, with the run game as strong as it's going to be, as I've talked about before time and time again, Cedric Alexander is going to be special. MK Young is going to be special. I think A.J. Newberry is going to be a really strong contributor. And, of course, Diego Pavia does what Diego Pavia does. And that's also an exciting piece of this offense. And to get him to have that dynamic ability to break the pocket and hit somebody in the passing game and gain yards. Like for him to not have to be a runner, a pure runner, I think that's only going to benefit this offense in a way that, you're just fortunate to have that. You can get yards, you can score in the red zone without having to run option or anything like that. There's a lot of possibilities you have with these weapons. And Diego Pavia, I think feels like he's in good hands. He's going to have good protection in the run game. He's going to have a good line to work with. I think this offensive line is going to start to gel a little bit. But this is going to be an offense that you're going to say, man, this is explosive, while simultaneously going, how? Because you're going to look at these guys and go, how are they explosive? What are they doing that's making them this way? Like, teams are going to get frustrated because they're like, we can't cover this guy. How can we not beat 13 personnel? And a lot of people are like, well, this is the week Vandy loses, and they just don't lose because they're in 13 personnel, and that's probably going to be their wheelhouse. They're going to move the formations around. They're going to break some things. They're going to, break some tendencies because Eli Stowers is that dude. And Bryson Coleman apparently is becoming that dude. So if you have two unguardable guys moving around the formation and making things explosive, sky's the limit with what this offense can do, not only in the run game, but the passing game as well. So look out for that. Bryson Coleman emerging as a playmaker. Marlon Jones also is at the cornerback position. He's getting some really good quality reps. He's becoming a guy that's also could be the starter opposite of Martel Hight on the other side. He's a corner that I think just needed to get healthy, but he has a lot of ability. And when you can get him in some good situations, he's really good covering man coverage. I mean, he was all Big Sky, conference player on defense at Eastern Washington. Like, he is legit good. He just, for whatever reason, I don't know the extent of the injury he had or the reason why he's not quite there yet. He is, but it doesn't matter. He's back. He's practicing now. I think he was a full participant and made some plays in the scrimmages in the 11-on-11 periods today. Probably also raising hell against these wide receivers in one-on-ones too, which is kind of exciting. But speaking of the competitiveness and the culture of practice, there's a certain adjective that I think would have a lot of people concerned normally, but to me, it's not that big of a concern. I'll tell you what that adjective is, and we'll talk about why it's not a concern next. But first, if you need that boost, daylight savings snuck up on us again. If you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. And I've been staying up late watching these tournament games, and 5-Hour Energy helps me keep up the next day. Extra daylight, extra activities is the thing. And with longer days, I love getting outside and going for hikes or runs or just playing outside with my son, and Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. It puts me in that summer state of mind. And whether I'm in a game or traveling, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and always keeps me feeling refreshed. So head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. And need one? If you need one and need one right this minute, well, just go out to your local gas station or convenience store or grocery store, and you can find a 5-Hour Energy shot there. And they're everywhere. They have probably more flavors than I mentioned. But stock up today, stay energized, 5-Hour Energy. Bam.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're wrapping up the show, and we are doing so. We're getting you into the weekend. Baseball has a really important series against Arkansas at the Hawks. So if you're around and want to see some baseball, go for it. J.D. Thompson is taking full advantage of his opportunities, and he's capitalizing. And that's what he needs to do. That's what he has to do. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see how this team hits and see how this team fares against what's going to be probably the top league in baseball. So you can chalk that up as another sport that the SEC is going to take over, because they're certainly taking over basketball right now, and they've owned football for quite some time too. So, but there you go. But we're going to take you into the weekend. We're going to wrap up the show by talking about practice culture. Okay. Now, on Vandy 247, you can read about each practice. And, one of the takeaways was, the dumb penalties, and, that happens. That's, you don't love them. You don't want them to happen. What's part of it? You get through it. You coach them through it. It's a little bit of a focus thing. Not overly worried about the dumb penalties just yet. If it keeps happening, maybe so, but not overly worried about that. What is interesting to me is that the adjective used to describe today's practice and today's team sessions was chippy. And what does chippy mean? Chippy means like when you're being physical, and anybody that's played football will understand this because we've all been there. And you feel like it's a little extra, and you take exception to that. You get mad, you push your teammate in that regard. The teammate pushes you back, and you have a little bit of a face mask to face mask shouting match, which I don't know why people fight with football pads on, because you can't accomplish anything. But that's neither here nor there. But chippiness is just the fact that they have to break up the players quite frequently. And, to be honest, there's nothing – I see that as a good thing if it's not like after every play and people are trying to fight and they go in the locker room. That's not good. But a little bit of chippiness at practice means you're flat getting after it. You're flat competing, and you're tired of banging on each other. You want to go against another team, and you want to line up and go contact with a different team. That's why these NFL teams have gone to a lot of these work days, because they can work against other teams, and those get pretty chippy as well because they're very competitive. But the chippiness means there's competition, means there's healthy competition. If it's just chippy, I think these coaches have a really good grip on things. So I don't think this chippiness is something that's going to I think it's not going to be something that you have to be overly worried about. It's when you start going down the road of, well, we're going from chippiness to downright fighting, which you never want to fight. Fighting is bad. Fighting is bad within your own team. Fighting is obviously bad in a game because people get suspended. But I love it. It just means it's intense. It just means that these guys care, and there's a lot of passion involved with these practices. It means that I think it's a very small sign. I get it. But it just means that this program is starting to take those next steps, because I don't know that you really ever, and anybody out there can correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't been covering Vandy for an exuberant amount of time. So it's something that possibly could have been happening in other eras and other years. But when you read about a passionate, high contact, you read the day before, it's like, oh, there were some hits, there's some competitiveness. Like it's a very intense practice. Like that's just going to happen. With intensity is going to come chippiness because people are hot, they're tired, they're frustrated. Maybe the guy blew his assignment and they're shoving back and forth. I don't know, but I love it. Right? I love the intensity. I love that this Vanderbilt team is not taking the physicality for granted, and I want to see that carry over into the fall. But speaking of carrying over, we're going to carry you over into the weekend. We hope you have a great weekend. We hope you come back and join us on Monday for more spring football talk. First scrimmage is up on deck for the football team this Saturday. So stay tuned not stay tuned for that because we're not broadcasting it, but the reactions are going to come from that. Plus any portal news that may break with basketball, and of course keeping you kind of up to date with the baseball scores. But until then, we'll see you back here next time. Have a great weekend. Follow the show at Locked On Vandy. Anchor down. Peace.